Sly Cooper 5 is an unreleased platform stealth video game that would have been developed by Sanzaru Games and published by Sony. The last entry in the series, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, was released back in 2013, and since then fans have pressured Sony for years to revisit the series to no avail. Let's break down the original plans if the series were to continue, why a true sequel seems unlikely given recent acquisitions, and more. As always, all the sources will be linked in the description below, so make sure to check those out and support those original writers. And with that out of the way, let's get into where is Sly Cooper 5. Let's start by discussing the developer who helped revitalize the series. If you aren't familiar, the first 3 games in the Sly Cooper trilogy were developed by Sucker Punch Productions. The games themselves released from 2002 to 2005 for the PlayStation 2. As more and more years passed, the community was unsure what was happening with the Sly Cooper IP, as Sucker Punch moved on to the infamous series in 2009, and it seemed unlikely that they would return anytime soon to the series, which is where Sanzaru Games comes into the picture. They created a remastered version of the games created up to that point, and released them together in the Sly Cooper collection for the PlayStation 3. The story goes that Sanzaru Games were such big fans of the Sly Cooper IP that the team created a demo level as a pitch for a new Sly Cooper game. The team at Sanzaru did not have any official assets or help from Sucker Punch or Sony, and when they went to go present this to Sucker Punch, they were so impressed it resulted in Sanzaru first being given the task of remastering the first 3 games as a way to fully understand the series. Then they were able to create their own 4th game, which ended up being Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, and that was released in 2013. The reason I'm mentioning this story is because it's so indicative of how Sony and Sucker Punch viewed the Sly Cooper IP. Neither of the parties were actively searching to continue the IP. Instead, it took a studio to create their own pitch and convince all parties involved to let them continue a series they were big fans of, which provides the necessary context as we progress into why Sony isn't working on Sly 5. We can't talk about continuing the Sly franchise without mentioning the cliffhanger ending in Thieves in Time. If you are watching this video and for some reason have not played Thieves in Time, I will be discussing spoilers, so either click off this video or jump ahead to the next chapter. If you're still here, the standard ending shows Le Paradox being defeated by Sly and being captured. The Thievius Raccoonus is recovered by Bentley, and the ending shows how each of the different characters are all dealing with Sly being missing and searching for him. The secret ending is shown if the player has achieved all the trophies in-game, which adds one more scene and more context to the game. The last scene shows up after the credits play, where Sly and the missing blimp are in an area that looks like ancient Egypt, and most likely will have to do with time travel. Most fans took this to mean the team was setting up a sequel with Sly being trapped in the past. Unfortunately, as more and more time passed after the release of Sly 4, it seemed more and more unlikely that fans were going to get the closure they wanted. An often referenced Facebook post from November of 2014 from Sanzaru Games gave fans an official update that said, quote, "I wanted to respond to a lot of the questions regarding Sanzaru Games and Sly Cooper. While we, like you, dearly love the Cooper gang, we are not currently working with PlayStation on a project, and there are no plans to work on another Sly Cooper title." And this was a definitive answer. It was not a teaser or trying to mislead fans. The studio was very direct that they loved working on the IP but had no plans to continue the series, and it would be many more years before details were given about what happened behind the scenes. Additional details were not given on how Sanzaru Games wanted to continue the Sly Cooper story until December of 2019 in an interview with Kinda Funny Games and the creative director of the studio, Matt Kramer. Around the 55-minute mark of the video, Greg asks Matt about the cliffhanger ending of Sly 4, and Matt says, quote, "We love Sly. I'll tell you a tidbit of information. The original first episode of Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, was supposed to be in Egypt, in Sly Tutankhamun, and Egypt was going to be a DLC episode. That was the intention, and we never got to finish that out. I do, and the team at Sanzaru have the story and the whole episode done on paper form." He continues on in the interview and says, quote, "We would love to come back to that world. I hate leaving him there, and it's the question we get the most. So all I can say is that if you guys want more Sly Cooper, let Sony know. We are always ready to dig into that, and it was a great franchise to work on. It was a great project." And from this quote, it sounds like the team wanted to and was expecting to work on Sly Cooper, but was cancelled for whatever reason by Sony, which reflects Sony's attitude on the IP up to this point. The fact that Sanzaru even got to make one additional game in the series and provide a remaster for the original games was a massive win for fans of the series, especially because all chances of Sly Cooper returning seemed to end in 2020. Because in February of 2020, it was announced by Facebook and Oculus that they were acquiring Sanzaru Games to help create new VR titles, which effectively means the only studio that was pushing for the return of Sly Cooper and actively saying they wanted to keep working on the franchise is now owned by a completely different company, which makes working on Sly Cooper again that much more difficult. It is not impossible that Sly Cooper could return, but not in the form of a fifth game, especially if they're now owned by Facebook. Instead, I agree with most community members that the most probable way the game series will return is a new remaster, which could include all 4 games in a new collection. Obviously, there has been no announcement or news from Sony or any other studio about a remaster, but if you are someone that wants to let Sony know you want to see more of the Sly franchise, I think the best chance of any sort of resurgence would only come after a remaster was released, and the remaster itself would have to be successful. Which is disappointing. I'm a big fan of the series, and I hope someday it can return, even if that means a remaster for the PS5. Either way, I hope that explains why we haven't seen a Sly 5 yet, and why it seems unlikely that Sony will revisit the series soon. Make sure to like and share this video, subscribe for weekly gaming news, and I will see you guys in the next one.